Since 2022, we've seen the highest inflation rates in 40 years, the fastest interest rate hikes in history. The world is on edge as war rages on in Europe and the Middle East, and geopolitical tensions continue to rise, putting households, businesses, and governments in a state of uncertainty. Basic survival needs like groceries, housing, and transportation have now become unaffordable, even to households with high incomes. Despite all this chaos, revenues have soared in one of the most unlikely places imaginable. Louis Vuitton handbags and Gucci belts are all the rage, and more popular than ever. Luxury brands have seen their sales recover and even surpass pre-pandemic levels, with practically every luxury brand seeing its sales swing up during the pandemic. Quite the juxtaposition at a time where families find themselves choosing between paying for heating or dish soap in any given month. In this video, we'll dive into how luxury fashion brands deceive you to spend more money and why younger generations are spending so much on luxury fashion more than ever before. Hey everyone, welcome to Alexandria, where we discuss and observe finance, economics, and business topics that are relevant in our everyday life. Designer brand names like Louis Vuitton, Prada, Gucci, Chanel, and Hermès have stood the test of time. Fashion has always been the fabric of our culture across movies, TV, and music. Luxury brands and status symbols inspire us to fit in and make us feel like we belong to upper-crust societies. While many businesses and industries were brought to its knees during the height of the pandemic, Louis Vuitton handbags were selling like gold-garnished hotcakes. A whopping 95% of luxury brands saw profits trend upwards in 2022, according to a Bain report. There are two key factors as to why luxury is bucking current trends. One of them is economic, and the other being psychological. Economically, the math is simple. People who can afford luxury don't balk at price tags. And with the stimulus checks handed out by the federal government during the pandemic, most of that went into luxury shopping. The psychology of why we buy luxury brands is about status. However, from a first principles perspective, it sounds quite ridiculous that people would join a waitlist in order to give a multi-billion-dollar company their entire life savings in exchange for a purse that's barely big enough to hold your phone and your wallet at the same time. While luxury brands salivate at their margins and revenues, what cost is it to the consumer? And how do the brands play psychological mind games with the consumers that rids people of all logic and reason when it comes to purchasing decisions during times of economic hardship? In order to answer that question, we need to understand what luxury is and what drives people to want it. Old Mr. Webster defines luxury as something that adds pleasure or comfort, but is not absolutely necessary. And this extends beyond fashion or handbags. It can refer to anything from cars to watches to private jets and furniture. According to the book, The Luxury Strategy, luxury is a mixture of brand exclusivity, authenticity, and inaccessibility. The key driving force of our desire for luxury goods is the democratization of wealth and social mobility. To understand what this means, let's go back in time to perhaps pre-revolution France, a time and place synonymous with luxury and decadence. Luxury goods, such as the latest fashions, exotic teas, fine furniture, and even rare pets, was pretty much exclusive to royalty and the aristocracy. It was nearly impossible for a commoner to even have a chance at accumulating the same level of wealth that would buy them the same luxuries in which Marie Antoinette indulged on a daily basis. Since those times, luxury has become democratized and globalized. Yajing Wang, professor of marketing at the China-Europe International Business School, writes that, as a result, the wealth signal has been diluted. Ironically, it is the democratization of wealth that is the strongest driver for the desire of luxury goods. Logically, the democratic process should have signaled the demise of luxury by bringing about the disappearance of aristocracy. However, paradoxically, the opposite has happened. The luxury concept has become its creator and driver of social stratification in an age where social mobility is possible. So whether it's Anne Hathaway in a Valentino or Kim Kardashian with her ultra-rare Himalayan crocodile diamond Birkin handbag, luxury brands have now become a form of self-expression, a means to tell the world, I have made it, a reward for economic success through hard work.
Big mistake. Big. Huge.
The exquisite craftsmanship, allure of exclusivity, and display of status and wealth are like magnets, pulling in consumers from all walks of life. While rational individuals may balk at the steep price tags and question the practicality of luxury bags or handmade watches, luxury fashion have mastered the art of seduction, and they're not afraid to use every trick in the book to keep us coming back for more. From sleek marketing campaigns to meticulously crafted store experiences, they know exactly how to make us feel like we are part of an exclusive club. Humans are social creatures, driven by the innate desire for social recognition and to be admired and fit in. Luxury brands know this about you and exploit it. So when luxury brands market their products and develop their image, they focus on brand, perception, scarcity, status, and belonging. While being part of the club does have its perceived perks, it seems to be at the cost of a hefty price tag. According to Bain & Company, the personal luxury market has exploded from $301 billion in 2019 to $373 billion in 2022. The average price of luxury clothing is $653 a piece, and the average price of luxury brand shoes is $521. This displays how consumer spending on luxury brands has jolted despite the lingering macroeconomic effects. And yet, people can't get enough of it because luxury goods don't follow the typical supply and demand curves you'll see in any Economics 101 class. Luxury goods are Veblen goods, defined as those for which demand increases as the price increases. And given the perceived resale values one can potentially get with a vintage Louis Vuitton or a timeless Harry Winston diamond ring, what is expensive now will consequently be more expensive tomorrow. The underlying assumption behind the discipline of economics is that all parties are rational, but when it comes to luxury goods, there is no rationality, and therefore, Veblen goods, such as Louis, has a demand curve going the opposite direction as a normal good. Looking side by side, luxury fashion products tend to be made with finer leathers, stitching, and premium materials. The higher quality will lead to a longer shelf life for consumers. But behind the scenes, luxury fashion brands actually have a far superior operating margin compared to their mainstream counterparts. Operating margin is essentially how much profit a company makes on a dollar of sales after paying for variable costs of production. To put in perspective, Hermès' trademark Birkin bag can range from $10,000 to $450,000, while a Coach purse can range from $300 to $500. From an operating margin standpoint, as of 2023, Louis Vuitton enjoys an operating margin of over 50%. Hermès' operating margin is 40%, while Tapestry, the parent company of Coach and other brands like Kate Spade, has an operating margin of 17%. With that said, Coach will need to sell 30 handbags to amount to the same cost as one Hermès Birkin bag. This is a critical factor of keeping up a luxury marketing strategy. While in traditional marketing, brands repeatedly highlight a product's value proposition, and after each marketing campaign, executives look at sales figures to see whether the campaign has really worked. In luxury, however, the dream comes first and is prioritized before sales. Luxury brands are more concerned about becoming too available than having not enough sales. Like a master artisan, the luxury industry has to carefully thread the needle of growth and scarcity. In the mid-2010s, when a lot of luxury brands shoved out too much product, they just devalued themselves, thus making their brand less desirable. A good example is Coach. It was ubiquitous in 2015. It was everywhere. They were selling their bags at a discount, a big taboo in the world of luxury. Since then, the industry has become more vigilant about becoming too commonplace. There are fewer discounts, and some brands never do sales. Videos of luxury brands destroying their excess inventory have gone viral on social media. This is what creates desire. And desire often creates a potent feeling of need, one that can be hard to reason away precisely because it isn't rational. The luxury business is in the business of selling dreams. So in order to keep the dream alive, brands like Hermès operate on high margins to remain successful. Hermès can focus on low volume, high ticket items as opposed to high volume, low ticket items, ensuring maximum profitability compared to its non-luxury retail peers. As time goes on, management teams intentionally raise prices on the same items in order to create a growing sense of urgency and exclusivity. When it comes to luxury, price is a pure technical detail. Brands know that by increasing prices, you become more attractive to people who would previously not have given you a second glance, which is why consumers oftentimes don't think twice about parting ways with hefty sums of their hard-earned money. And no other age group is more susceptible to these marketing tactics than millennials and Gen Z. The luxury market remains resilient in the face of recession, and its consumer base is expanding, with an estimated 400 million consumers in 2022 and is expected to grow to 500 million by 2030, which will mostly be made up of millennials and Gen Z, who are splashing down their life savings on high-end items to cope with economic upheavals. These younger consumers are not just participating in the luxury market, they are reshaping it. According to Bain, by 2025, Gen Z and millennials are predicted to account for a staggering 70% of luxury spending, outpacing their Gen X and baby boomer counterparts. By 2030, millennials and younger generations will make up 80% of luxury spending. Gen Z alone makes up 40% of US consumers and is projected to surpass millennials as the largest consumer base in the US by 2026. Also, according to Bain, Gen Z are also making their first luxury purchases earlier than millennials did, at around age 15. This might seem like an odd projection, given the countless reports of young people's finances lagging behind those of their parents. However, a Morgan Stanley report suggested that young adults may have more disposable income because a greater number of them are living with their parents longer due to skyrocketing rent. The accessibility of buy now, pay later platforms also makes it easier to finance a $5,000 handbag. While a mortgage may feel super out of reach to even dream of, paying for a really high-priced watch seems doable. When it comes to status pieces, however, price and affordability are a little besides the point. A recent Credit Karma survey found that over half of Gen Z and millennials considered themselves to be emotional spenders. More than a third even said that their emotional spending was out of control. Credit Karma also found that doom spending is an act practiced by 43% of millennials and 35% of Gen Z. This generation carries hefty student loan debt, faces a tough labor market, and are largely priced out of buying homes or having children. Historically, when economic times get tough, people save more. But today's younger generations are flipping that on its head. In the face of economic turbulence and political strife, why not enjoy the finer things in life while you still can? Spending on luxury goods is a way to cope with the stress of daily life amid the cost of living crisis, even though it's not really a healthy one. Business publications like the Wall Street Journal and Bloomberg have reported many cases where people in their 20s are spending their life savings recklessly on unnecessary luxuries, like this 26-year-old from New York who spent his last emergency savings on a knockoff Burberry tote featured in Succession. Because of geopolitical uncertainty and economic hardship, young people are choosing to spend on things that would bring them immediate fulfillment. Psychologists call these behaviors financial avoidance and say it's a typical habit among younger people during times of hardship. But the pandemic's economic whiplash, followed by high inflation, is making such avoidance more common. Consequences for ignoring bank and credit card accounts include overspending, damaged credit, and deep debt, a practice which can complicate later financial milestones, such as buying a home, having children, or retiring. Hamilton College economics professor Stephen Wu published research about doom spending all the way back in 2004. He found that when people feel like luck or other outside factors determine their financial success, they're less likely to save for the future. And now, after the pandemic and the Great Recession, that sort of fatalism has become even more common. Total US credit card debt has reached a record high of $1.13 trillion by the end of 2023, and Americans in their 30s are the most indebted out of any age group. According to a NerdWallet survey, young people are also more likely to have paid late fees or taken advances from their credit cards, with millennials having the highest delinquency rates. The debt buildup could worsen a generational wealth gap that was already on the rise for millennials. Many started their careers during the 2007 to 2009 recession, with no bargaining power, crimping their earnings ever since. Even when the economy is doing well, some have said that they feel as though financial gains are fragile. However, the growing wealth gap actually fuels consumption. Studies have shown that higher income equality heightens awareness and anxiety about class. One study analyzing Google Trends data showed that Americans sought out luxury goods during times of greater economic inequality. Abigail Sussman, a professor of marketing at the University of Chicago's Booth School of Business, says that young adults with lower wage jobs may avoid budgeting and checking their bills altogether because it makes them feel helpless. If you feel like you're really behind, then budgeting is also a reminder of how behind you really are. And if you set your goals too high, it can be demotivating. People are really just prioritizing happiness, and a lot of folks see happiness in traveling, eating out, and of course, indulging in luxury. A Wall Street Journal article titled "Americans Are Still Spending Like There's No Tomorrow" highlights several examples, like this millennial financial marketing professional from Brooklyn who pays $3,000 a month for rent. Instead of saving for a down payment like he expected after turning 30, he instead bought a $1,600 Taylor Swift Eras Tour ticket, and then he spent $3,500 on a bachelor party to Ibiza. Or this couple who went into credit card debt to finance a vacation to Hawaii last year. Quite ironic in that the first part of the video talked about how the motivation to buy luxury stems from the need to belong and to express to the world the great economic and financial successes one has accumulated in life. Which is why many luxury brands don't actually target the wealthy upper classes, who usually already feel confident in their financial situation and don't really have anything to prove. Luxury brands target the middle class, where you'll find people who are more concerned about looking rich than actually being rich. So it's not just rich people buying rich people things. A material portion of luxury growth comes from middle and low income consumers. According to global data, Americans with a household income of less than $50,000 make up about 27% of regular luxury consumers. That's almost as big of a group as luxury consumers with an income of over $150,000. All of this is a great outlook for luxury brands, who have a robust pipeline of new customers feeding into their ever-growing industry. But the reality is, this is a huge problem from a socioeconomic standpoint. If more and more young people find it insanely hard to keep up with rising costs of living, the long-term consequence would be that it would deplete the middle class, which is the backbone of our society.
Let them eat cake.
And if the middle class depletes and the wealth gap widens, we'll be going backwards as a society, which, in the long term, decreases technological innovation and standard of living. But as young individuals, it's important to acknowledge this, even though it's certainly a tough pill to swallow. The only thing worse than realizing the truth of this is to be in denial of it and pretend that these challenges don't exist, because they certainly do. Here at Alexandria, we believe practical financial literacy is one of the most important skills to acquire in life, and the best thing you can do for your future self. We encourage you to watch your money very closely. As mentioned many times in this video, luxury retailers are masters in marketing and so well versed in psychology to make you part ways with your money before you even have a chance to reason. What they don't tell you is that you also have to pay for housing, insurance, groceries, and education. Your favorite stores will tell you how much you may need a certain handbag, but this will only distract you and make you forget about the important and practical things that are needed in everyday life, which, by the way, are expensive too. At the beginning of this video, we mentioned the democratization of wealth. Unlike medieval times, we actually have a chance to accumulate wealth with hard work and discipline. Yes, it's extremely hard, but we are lucky to be living at a time when this is possible. If you like this video, here's a video we did on Alo Yoga competing with Lululemon, as here on this channel, we do video essays on where we observe finance in our everyday lives, and we will see you in the next one.